Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Stebbing,
I'm Chloe Stebbing.
and this is the start to our coverage, our second annual coverage of the Vancouver International Film Festival, this for the year 2025, and it is their 44th edition. And I've been covering it myself. This is my 10th year, but Chloe, you're kind of going along with the show here, and this is your second year as well.
Yep.
So you're coming off that rookie year of kind of seeing what the festival is like, experiencing what the audiences are like and everything. And the anticipation, I know we're both been feeling the anticipation for VIFF season when it comes up, when you get the accreditation, when you see what's playing.
Yeah.
And now we're like a week away. As we're recording this, we are a week away, and that fever pitch is up. Going into your second year, how are you feeling about this?
I have like pre-festival jitters, same as I did last year, which I feel like is weird and I shouldn't have. But I mean, it is like a huge undertaking and it is a huge event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a mix of like anxiety and extreme excitement because I'm just really excited to see what they're putting out this year and see how the films kind of measure up to last year's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like I do try because before we kind of schedule what we're going to do, we kind of make lists of what we're interested in. And I try to appease both lists as best as I possibly can. But it does become a lot of me dragging you to films that otherwise you would never pop on or you would never buy a ticket for and go see, probably.
Yeah.
So there's probably that trepidation of it too. Like, what kind of boring shit am I going to sit through this year, or what kind of weird shit am I going to sit through? But
Yeah.
the discovery of it, I think on both sides, like I'm still going through it all the time, where I feel like a film that I thought was going to be an interesting one hit so much harder than I thought it was going to. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like even the boring films do hit differently in a VIFF setting.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year's Secret Mall Apartment. Kind of watching that in any other setting would have been marginally boring. But because of the atmosphere and because of the overall ambience and experience, it did make it more than it would have been if we were just sitting and watching it on a couch.
Mm-hmm. And this one is definitely directed for you, but there is one movie that did it for me. Have you ever cried so much in movies as you have for that stretch of days at VIFF?
No, I mean, not for the length of time that those movies made me cry. Like, can I get a witness? I was crying for 3 days. Like, at any time I would think about that movie in any capacity, I would just start crying. And it was to the point where it was like, again? Like, this again?
Yeah.
Like, it was so deeply affecting me that it was almost ridiculous.
Well, hopefully we might actually run into Anne-Marie Fleming at the festival this year, which would be
Hopefully,
pretty damn
yeah.
cool because you actually did
I've
an
only
interview.
met her through,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you did your first interview this year with a director that screened at VIFF. And so now we're in the 44th year. There's a lot of great films that are playing in the festival. Are there a couple that you're looking forward to that you know that we're going to be checking out in our schedule?
If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You, I'm quite excited for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Basically, kind of all the horror ones, but I feel like horror was very slim pickings this year.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel
there
like it was a little bit
wasn't a
too.
lot of horror this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the altered state
Um,
side, it felt like there was some that were a little few and far between.
yeah,
Especially when I was trying to make the picks and scheduling and stuff. It just felt like a lot of the horror went by the wayside. And I do wish, and this is before your time because they didn't do it last year either, but I wish they would bring back like the Rio midnight screening movies. like some of the those really crazy horror movies and put them on as the last show at the Rio. I think that would be great, but didn't really work out like that. So hopefully maybe they'll make some sort of adjustment in the future.
Yeah. I am glad that we were able to get screeners this year though, instead of trying to cram everything into like in-person
Yes.
screenings.
Yeah. Well, and even through that, there's a few that I have taken a look at and I'm very excited about and excited to talk about and to get other people to watch as the festival progresses. But yeah, it's funny that If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You is actually one of our movies that we're kicking off with.
Yep, first day.
That's on the first day. The ones that I'm kind of looking forward to, Christie for one, the Sydney Sweeney film, the Christy Martin story, because I've actually seen the the documentary story. Well, it was an episode of documentary on Netflix. I forget. I think it was the Untold documentary series that's on Netflix. Episode 2 is Christy Martin, and it's really, really good. So I kind of know the story, so I'm looking forward to that one. Late Shift, which is our late movie on the Thursday, I'm looking forward to as well. And there's 2 Richard Linklater films this year. So Blue Moon, we'll be seeing on the Friday, and it's got Ethan Hawke in it. So Linklater and Hawke, I'm so down. And I think Elle Fanning
Yeah.
is in that one too. And then
Okay, great.
the next day we get to see Nouvelle Vague, which is also Richard Linklater. So I'm just shocked that we got 2 of his films in one festival year. Like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Sentimental Value, I'm looking forward to seeing. And After the Hunt, even though it comes out like a week later in regular release, I am looking forward to that one as well. But there's going to be a lot of solid stuff. I'm going to be flying down, going to be picking up our passes, and you're going to see that journey kind of as it happens, as I can record it. But before, we're going to hit up some of our pre-screening reviews here and stuff that you can check out probably at the festival right now. All right, so did my first screener for the Vancouver International Film Festival, and it's Canadian at its core, so I'm starting off in the right track. This is Steven Kostanski's Deathstalker, which is a campier and more comedic-driven remake or reimagining of the 1983 film that I think people sleep a lot on. But Deathstalker, this is Daniel Bernhardt is your lead character in this one. A friend of mine through podcasting, Paul Lazenby, also appears in this one. Nina Bergman shows up really quickly in this. Patton Oswalt is a voice in this film as well, and it's actually really kind of perfect. But this feels like Kostanski and his Gore Effects team just going to the wall with a little bit less budget than a Psycho Goreman would have. But I do enjoy this a little bit more than I did Frankie Frico, even though I did enjoy Frankie Frico. I think this is like definitely geared to a certain audience that will check this one out, but this is so geared for the Rio screenings that will be happening during VIFF. And now Kostanski has so many films that you could actually do a Steven Kostanski marathon at the Rio, and it would kill because all of his movies are so built to be played in that theater. So hell of a lot of fun. I would recommend checking it out. Next up was László Nemes's new film, Orphan, which I kind of feel like I kind of have a history with László when it comes to this film festival in particular, because I saw Son of Saul, I want to say it was 2015, which would have been my first VIFF that I attended, and it shook me to my core. It is an intense experience of being on the back of one of these Soder Commando members prisoners during the Second World War, and might be one of the definitive Holocaust stories ever told. And it shook me to my core. Sunset was also a great film. That was his follow-up to it. But this film, I feel like, has a sorrow and a brutality to it that is on the same level as A Son of Saul, but at the same time is probably one of the most beautiful films I've seen this year in its visual scope, because it is incredible the way it uses shading and natural light and everything like that. I think it's incredible. The young actor in it is amazing in such I don't know how you soften this story to tell a child to act it, but he does it brilliantly. And I thought it was just a wonderful piece of art, and I encourage people to check this one out. It is not for the faint of heart, and it is a story of, adults doing everything in their power to destroy the soul of a young boy, and it's brutal. It's brutal, but it's very powerful at the same time. Alrighty, and the third film in my pre-screening journey is a film called Our Hero Balthazar that has Jaden Martell and a completely unrecognizable Asa Butterfield in a film basically about crusading teenagers in their own regards. Jaden Martell is a rich kid who has a crush on a girl in high school that is one of those social justice warriors that moves to act in ways to make society better. So he decides that he's going to basically try and fake some gun violence videos, sobbing into the camera, and hoping that it gets this girl's attention. But what it gets the attention of is a gun nut troll teenager out of Texas, played by Asa Butterfield. So in thinking that he is going to be this big hero to stop a high school shooter, a possible high school shooter, he heads down, Jaden Martell's character heads down to Texas to try to confront this troll. And this film is about naivety, gun culture, and indoctrination. And there's a lot at this core that is satirically very funny, but also harrowingly truthful. And it also is another indicator that largely we really don't know our kids that well down to the core and what their intentions are. And it's honestly a cry to be better and more connected parents, in my personal opinion. And honestly makes me feel a lot better about the relationship that I have with my kids, that they would actually tell me shit if it was going down. But a very interesting social commentary film, and I recommend people check it out. For my fourth film of the pre-screening that I've been doing, I think I finally, I'm only 4 films in, and I think I've hit the high bar for Canadian films to clear this year. And as Chandler Levack's sophomore film, Mile End Kicks, with Barbie Ferreira and Jay Baruchel, and just a phenomenally well done film. I watched this one with my wife, and she praised this film after, and she said, honestly, in many films, I don't really feel seen as a person, or in my gender, or just in my mind's proclivities, and I feel seen with this film. Again, Levack infuses this film with such a deep pop culture and a rich Canadian like indie music pop culture that really gives it a really solid foundation. And she also writes characters that you actually give a shit about. And Barbie Ferreira has had two strong performances this year with this film, and Bob Trevino likes it. And being not being a Euphoria guy, this is really my conduit into her work, and I think she is phenomenal. And I think her career is just in a great ascension at this point, and I can't wait to see what's next from her. It's going to be a fun film, especially at the festival, for people to check out. So I highly recommend this one. And like I said, it's possibly my favorite Canadian film of the festival, which hasn't even started yet.
Hey guys, so it's the day before VIFF. It is currently October 1st as I'm filming this, and I was able to screen two films before actually attending VIFF. I was able to watch them in my home thanks to the VIFF coordinators. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is a Chinese film called Factory, and it follows a manager at a Lenovo assembling plant factory in Wuhan, China. And most of the film starts in February 2020. So beginning of the pandemic, everything's locked down, everything's closed, nobody's allowed to go anywhere. But Lenovo, being a company, needs to make money, so they task him with calling factory workers back to work so that they can resume operation. Um, and Wuhan at this time was completely shut down. Um, Nobody was allowed to go anywhere. Most businesses were still closed. Lenovo was the only factory that was operating. And from what I could understand from the film, they weren't even supposed to be operating at the time. Um, so it's extremely difficult to get these people to come back or get anybody to come back. Um, but they were obviously able to because people need to work, people need to make money. But they were having so many issues with people who were, I guess, not qualified to work a factory job or couldn't handle the stressors of it. And then there's also just the typical stressors of the COVID pandemic and the lockdown. So rampant health paranoia, loneliness, mental health problems, and all that needing to be dealt with in this factory setting because it was the only thing available. Like Lenovo had on-site doctors, on-site psychiatrists that would prescribe medication, um, and it was just extremely isolating. And they didn't have enough domestic, like Wuhan residents, to work in this factory, so Lenovo built dorms to house these workers, and it was like 6 to 8 beds per room, and that obviously takes a huge toll on one's mental health. Um, so the most interesting part of this film is the people. I could not care less about, oh, Lenovo's struggling financially. Oh, they're having problems with supply chain from India and Vietnam and all these. Like, I don't care how well the company is doing. The only thing that made me care about that is that it was trickling down to the workers and making their lives harder. Like, they would be working 12-hour shifts and only get paid maximum. Like the largest number that I heard was $3.30 an hour, averaging $250 a month. And Lenovo was struggling to keep people because those are literal slave wages, and even compared to other factories as the pandemic progressed and were opening, they were offering up to 600 per month, which is still not a lot, but more than what Lenovo was offering. So the like I said, the most interesting aspect was how it affects the people and how they're managing in their day-to-day lives, going through the pandemic, going through grueling hours in a factory with extreme COVID protocols, like multiple temperature checks a day, QR codes to scan into everywhere, constant supervision, constant check-ins. And that part was really interesting, seeing how their daily lives were during this extremely tumultuous time in the most tumultuous area, because Wuhan, I believe, is where COVID originated, right? So protocols would be extreme in that area. And again, as the pandemic progressed, the rest of China slowly was opening up, and they were opening up more and more and more. And people were allowed to leave their districts, people were allowed to go back to work, they were allowed to see each other again. But in Wuhan, none of that really happened at the same pace at all. So the Chinese, uh, I don't think the Chinese government, the um, politicians, I guess, that uh, were in charge of the Wuhan district would let out orders or schedules. I can't remember the exact language used, but it was like the levels of COVID protocol. Wuhan, when Wuhan was on level 18 or number 18, other parts of China were on number 25. And that kind of just tells you how far behind Wuhan was in being able to advance during the pandemic. They took things a lot more seriously. They were a lot stricter. People weren't allowed to leave the district even when other districts opened up, and people were allowed to move freely. And that's part of why Lenovo had to set up these dorms for these workers. So overall, this documentary isn't the most interesting or engaging. I mean, it's a documentary about a factory during COVID, so I don't think you can really expect too much. Um, but that would have been more bearable if if the movie wasn't so damn long. It is almost like, it's like 2 minutes shy of 2.5 hours. It is 2 hours and 28 minutes, and I there near the end, like at like around the 2 hour mark, I was like, I'm ready to stop this. I'm ready to watch something else. But at the same time, they didn't include anything redundant. Like, kind of everything mattered in the grand scale of things. But again, it gets dull, especially if you don't have an express interest in these people's lives and in what these people go through. And especially if you have COVID fatigue and like you kind of don't want to hear about it anymore. This film is about COVID, which I didn't know going into it, but it's it's whatever. Overall, it is a interesting film if you're interested in this specific subject. It is not something that I would recommend to people on a regular basis that don't have an interest in how other parts of the world handled COVID, or how um, Chinese factories operate. It's a very, very niche film. The other film that I checked out was Blue Heron, which Steve said good things about, and he, I believe, heard good things from others. And it's it's about a Hungarian family that moves to Vancouver Island in the late 1990s. and the eldest son, Jeremy, is troubled. I was surprised at the extremely real look into like late 90s, early 2000s childhood. Like all the scenes of like the kids like running around and getting into like shenanigans and like doing stuff in the yard and doing stuff at the beach. I was like, I did all of this. Like this is a very authentic Canadian childhood, which I really liked and really liked to see portrayed. Because although it's not, I feel like it's not that different from other childhoods in other countries, especially like America. Well, actually, no, I think that would be very different. But um, it was nice to see that specific image portrayed in a film so correctly. And there is also on the TV in the background in one scene. There is an advert for the Canadian House Hippo, which I have to mention just because if you're a Canadian, it's a staple. It's an absolute staple of like existing in 90s, early 2000s. And it's a Canadian treasure, really. The way that the story is portrayed is extremely interesting and it is refreshing, but it's also confusing. It kind of took me a second to really catch on the specific lens that we're looking through because it's almost like it's it's almost portrayed as time travel where a character will go back and kind of just exist in that time as their present selves, but we don't get that transition. It kind of just happens. It kind of just collides. And then I was kind of left scrambling a little bit to figure out what exactly the perspective is. Like, is this real? Is this imagination? Is this hallucination? Like, I couldn't figure it out for a minute. But the overall arching story is sad. Um, and it does raise a lot of questions of like what what did this like what was Jeremy actually going through, like because there's no answer. Again, it's not the most engaging like Factory was. They're not very attention grabbing films. It's a lot of subtlety in Blue Heron. It's a lot of subtlety. It's a lot of analyzing, and it's a lot of emotional work. The actors did phenomenally. Um, but it's not that I had a hard time getting into it and getting the feel and the mood. It's just it's a very real look at the director's life and past, and you kind of have to step back and like remember that and realize that and understand that real life isn't going to be like crazy things happening all the time, and it is the subtle things and the small things and the things that like the almost mundane things that we experience that shape who we are and actually is the interesting thing. um, but I'm not exactly raving about this film. And again, I don't know who I would recommend this to because it is slow. There are confusing perspectives, and a lot of the subtext you don't figure out or get told about until essentially the end. Uh, and having that clarity in the beginning, I think, would actually make the film more readable. Um, and you would be able to understand the dynamics better and kind of put more reasonings behind actions. But as an art piece, it is admirable. And I do overall like the film, but it's hard to kind of compartmentalize and put into a box in order to kind of explain or review, because it is a very personal story.
Alrighty, so Tuesday morning, the 30th, I'm about to leave to go to the airport to catch my flight to get to Vancouver. So this is the beginning of my journey to get to VIFF. I was worried yesterday. It was really smoky out here in the Okanagan Valley, and I was like, is this going to affect my flight to Vancouver? But I look outside and it's pretty damn clear. Not any wildfire smoke to be seen, so I'm on my way.
Alrighty, I'm now here at the baggage claim in YVR, waiting for the next leg of my journey after I get my suitcase. And then the next leg of my journey is heading into downtown Vancouver to pick up the passes for the festival for both Chloe and I. And then from there, well, I have to go to the Van City Theater, so I really love this theater, so it's really cool to stop in there for a couple seconds. But yeah, that's up next. That's right, I finally made it. This is beautiful. Alrighty, so passes have been secured. Now I'm just kind of killing time until the festival starts, but there's a few things here and there that I could check out along the way, I think. Okay, let's go.